And happy Friday, everyone. My name is meteorologist Heather Kane. It's time for our daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor Show, as well as Atlas Roofing. Thank you guys, as always, for sponsoring our videos. So let's get right into our weather headlines. We do have some activity expected in Minnesota today. We had some hail already this morning. We could see some more this afternoon going into the evening and overnight hours. So we'll take a look at that. And then as we get into our weekend, we could be pretty quiet, but getting into next week, we could see the pattern changing a bit. So we'll take a look at that as well. And then we will finally close it out with the tropics to see if there are any storms to keep an eye on. But before we get into the forecast, we have a few events. The first one is going to be from the 5th to the 6th down in Houston. This is the RCAT Texas Roofing Conference. So we'll be at the Marriott Marquis in Houston, and the booth will be 721. So if you're going to that, make sure you come on by to our booth and say hi to us, learn more about our products if you haven't become a Hail Trace member already. So yeah, we'll be at that on the 5th and the 6th of October. And then as we get into tomorrow, we have our next home game. It's going to be OU versus Iowa State. So we'll be down in Norman. If you haven't gone to any of our home tailgates before, they're a lot of fun. We have free food, free beer. We'll have the game playing as well. So we will be down there again, tent 112. It's on Jenkins Avenue. You'll see a whole bunch of tents. So come on by and say hi to us and watch the game. So speaking of the tailgate for tomorrow, looks like it's going to be a pretty nice day. A little bit on the warm side, though. Temperatures will be getting up into the lower 90s a few hours before kickoff. But then kickoff is going to be at 6 p.m. Still a little toasty, but it's going to be dry. And then the rest of the game looks like it's going to be pretty nice as well. So again, kickoff versus Iowa State will be at 6 p.m. Central Time tomorrow down in Norman. So here are current conditions across the lower 48. For the most part, most of the U.S. is pretty quiet. We do have two disturbances, though, bringing some wet weather. The first one is up here in Minnesota. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we had some hail falling in parts of Minnesota. Just some heavier showers and storms going on right now. No warnings are in effect at this time. But as we get into later on this afternoon and evening, we could see some more storms fire up here, starting in western Minnesota and moving off to the east. And then getting off into the northeast, no severe weather, but a lot of heavy rain is falling here from parts of New York, down into New Jersey, eastward, all the way up to far southern Maine. So a lot of heavy rain. Probably putting a damper on a lot of those plans that you have for today, as well as probably getting into tomorrow as well. So zooming back out, taking a look at our temperatures. A little bit cool here in the northeast. We have a high pressure in control. It's only 67 in Fort Wayne, 62 in New York City. And a lot of cloud cover and rain associated with those cool temperatures as well. The middle of the country, though, starting to get a bit toasty with temperatures getting up to almost 90 here in Kansas City, down into Oklahoma City. Dallas, you've already hit 90, and then getting into behind that system in Minneapolis, those temperatures are starting to cool off as well. So let's take a look at our future jet stream over the next few days. High pressure once again will be in control from the central to the eastern part of the U.S. But we have our next trough that it's going to be sitting in the western part of the U.S. as we get into the next few days. So temperatures will be a bit cooler here in the western part of the U.S., but then here in the eastern part, it's going to remain quite warm. And as we get into Saturday and into Sunday, really not a whole lot of a change. That high pressure is basically going to be sitting here, as well as that trough staying in the west. As we get into Monday, it's starting to break down a little bit. Warm temperatures will continue in the eastern part of the U.S., but as we get into Tuesday, this trough finally starts to move off to the east, and so we'll be watching the middle of the country Tuesday into Wednesday with this system to see if we can get any severe weather out of this. And you can see it pushes even further to east here on Wednesday morning. In terms of our temperatures, again, it's going to be quite toasty here, especially across the middle of the country. Temperatures will get into the 80s and the 90s from today, getting into tomorrow, as well as getting into our Sunday. But then as we get into Monday, those warm temperatures will slowly start to push off to the east, and here comes that next trough as we get into Tuesday and into Wednesday morning. So again, this system we will be watching for that severe weather. And then taking a look at our dew points, really not a whole lot of moisture, but we do have some in some spots here across the lower 48. That moisture will be present for that development of severe weather as we get into today. And then getting into tomorrow, moisture will be around as we get into tomorrow, but there's not going to be a whole lot of lift as we get from tomorrow and into the rest of our weekend. So we'll see some instability on the next in the next frame as well. I'll show you, but the conditions just aren't going to be there for that severe weather to really get going, because that trough again is going to be in the west, so we won't have that substantial lift that is needed. But then as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be again watching the middle of the U.S. But let's talk about today. Again, we did see some activity earlier in parts of Minnesota in terms of hail and some gusty winds. As we get into the next few hours, just some scattered showers and storms will be around. Nothing too crazy, but then this is going to be at 6 p.m. Central Time. Some individual cells may start to fire up here in western Minnesota. And then as we get into later on in the evening, some more convection is expected to develop here in central Minnesota. Minneapolis, could you get some hail? We shall see. As we get into the overnight hours, that activity is expected to push off to the east and to spread into the northern parts of Wisconsin. So it could get a little noisy up there in northern Wisconsin as we get into tomorrow morning. In terms of our hail forecast, I'm not going too crazy in terms of size. I think anywhere from $quarter to $half size hail is possible for any storms that do develop this evening and into the overnight hours. Minneapolis, you have a low-end chance to see that $quarter to $half size hail, although I think the better chances are going to be to your north, but your chances aren't zero there. And then for our wind forecast, same deal. I think up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible with any storms that do develop. Minneapolis, again, you have a low-end chance to see a 60-mile-per-hour gust or two if we can get some storms to move through your area. And then again, like I just mentioned, I'm not really expecting anything too crazy in terms of size. $quarter to $half is the largest that I'm doing for today's hail. And then for the next few days, in terms of our instability, we will start to see those CAPE values increase once again as we get into this afternoon and evening. And we don't have any lift associated with this instability down here in the south. So really the main focus is going to be up here in the north. And again, that trough is going to be sitting in the west, so we will have that instability as we get into the next few days, but we're not anticipating anything really in terms of severe weather, as we won't have that lift. But as that trough does move off to the east and that instability starts to return, as well as the moisture, things may line up to where we have to start watching the Central Plains down into the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas for the chance of severe weather with that trough. getting into Tuesday and Wednesday. So here's our future radar. This is, again, just a particular model, one run of a model. So again, storms will be firing it today into the overnight hours up in Minnesota. But other than some, showers here and there, and then of course a mess in the west with that trough moving on through. We're not anticipating anything crazy in terms of severe weather. But then as we get into Tuesday and that trough starts to move off to the east, you can see it. We could potentially have some severe weather from the Central Plains down into parts of the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle. So we're still a few days out from this. We will keep an eye on the system for you as we get into the beginning of next week. So lastly, we're going to check in here on the tropics. We have 2 tropical storms out in the Atlantic right now. We have Philippe as well as Irina. They're just spinning away out there, not really doing a whole lot. So let's take a look at the tracks. This is Philippe, and he's not really going anywhere. He's kind of just spinning kind of in the same spot almost. So as we get into tomorrow and into Sunday, not really moving a whole lot, moving a little bit to the west, and we'll try to swing back north. May make a run for at least a Category 1 hurricane status as we get into Monday, but as of right now at 8 a.m. on Monday, he'll just be a strong tropical storm. So no threat to land as of right now with that, and then the same deal goes with Irina, a tropical storm, middle of nowhere, not really affecting anyone or anything except for a few fish. So that's good news if you don't want any hurricanes in your region, as these 2 systems don't look like they're going to be impacting any land over the next few days. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as our TikTok page. We do have this demo up here that you could scan as well if you want some more information about our products. And if you don't want to scan that and you want to do it the old-fashioned way, you can call us at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com. And check out our website at www.hailtrace.com for more information as well. And I am meteorologist Heather Kay. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend.